Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. It's a valley of shadows. It's not even the substance. It's not even the real thing.
Oh, no,
So
yeah.
that's what we have to understand. What you're seeing in so-called reality, in the world shutting down, for example, it's not the real thing. Everybody buys into it. We give our attention to it as though it's the real thing. But only thing we have to do corporately is have a shift in consciousness in that illusion of that valley of shadows shifts, changes, transforms. Would you agree?
That's it. That's it. As you think. That's it. You're given the show, and you got the whole show, and you're told to dress it, and you're doing so. Do you like it? If you don't, change. Be a new director. Be a new change. You're given to do so. Why not? Why not give it a shot? I mean, God is asking you to ask. He didn't say, ask what? He just said, ask. And he told you to choose this day. He didn't tell you what to choose. He just said choose. So you're free to do whatever you want to do if you'll be in control as attitude awareness and imaginational control, because imagination is the creative power in this world. God himself, consciousness of being. And you're consciousness of something all the time. But are you choosing it? That's the question, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you choosing it? And if so, what are you choosing? Now, of course, we really don't even have to ask the question. We can talk to any person for a short amount of time, ask them a series of questions of what it is that they're experiencing in their life, and we can know what they're choosing. Would you agree?
Sure. Sure. In other words, you see what people are doing, and you know where their thoughts are. You say other people don't know what you're thinking. They don't need to know. You know. And what you know, that's what you're doing. And if you change what you know, you'll change what you're doing. Isn't that it?
Absolutely. I was reading a book recently, and this guy had just been kicked out of the unemployment office because he wouldn't take this particular job, not because it was beneath him, but he knew that there were more opportunities out there. So the guy kicked him out, and he took his check away. And he had remembered an opportunity that a friend told him about. And he started applying what it was that he knew. He changed his mind, and in 6 months transformed his world. It doesn't have to take 6 months. Would you agree?
That's right. No, it took me years. But then again, you have to remember that was back in the 50s, and even the word metaphysical it made people kind of wonder what you're talking about. So it was a time when you had to really think outside of the box. And that's what I got from Neville Goddard, was thinking outside the box. Because we're all encased in this body, but you can be free of it. And you're given to be free of it. Because if you get into mind, you're out of body if you're really in mind. And all your mindsets are things that you put together and set in motion. And they work automatically. Actually, like I said, the whole show is on automatic as you think you are. That's it. That's the whole show. Why are you thinking what you don't want? Because if that's what you're experiencing, then that's what you're thinking. And no, I've never had any training for this, and I'm just giving it to you the way I got it, the way I felt it, the way I am experiencing it, and you can too, because there it is. You're on all the time, but what are you on?
And the thing is, as Mr. Lindell was stating, you have to be mindful of what it is that you're giving your attention to. The Apostle Paul was talking at one point about a struggle that he was facing. He said, who would deliver me from this body of death? You're delivered from that perceived body of death by what it is that you're thinking. When you change your thoughts, you change the body of circumstances. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, too, all the illnesses in the world, your body is reacting to your thinking feelingly. That's it. If your thinking feelingly is directed, in other words, if a man would order his conversations aright, he would be shown salvation. That's relief from anything that's bothering you. If you'll focus, and that's all it really takes, is just being focused. I know what that was for me. That's the reason why it took me years. I couldn't seem to get focused. But once you do get really focused and actually have a revelation, then from then on, that's all you'll be looking for. Because that's the saving grace that's given to all of us. See, God will heal you just as fast as he'll heal anyone. And if he's ever healed anyone, then he'll heal you. Because he's no respecter of persons. You're just as precious to him as anyone else in the world. And when you become precious to yourself, then the two agree, and you're healed, right?
Absolutely. And I love that you brought again the no respect of person. None are worthy. So if none are worthy and he's no respecter of person, what he did for one person, he can do for any person. If you begin to operate from that place of healing. And a lot of times, most of us, we're not willing to give up our limitations. We fight for our limitations. You say, well, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what the doctor has said. You don't know. So all of that is holding on to, fighting for your limitations. And you're not willing to do something different. And what I mean was, like, for example, years ago, I was talking to one of my siblings, and she said, well, you know that diabetes runs in our family. I said, not so. I said, diabetes does not run in my family. I said, it runs in your family. And what I meant by that, in speaking that to her, was, I said, if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you've always gotten. I said, I choose to do something different. And that's the power that each and every one of us have been given. Would you agree?
That's it. You're always making a case for, or you're making a case against what? Always. I mean, thinking makes it so. What? What are you thinking? If it's nonsense, do you want it so? No? Then stop thinking it. You know, I know this sounds so super simple, but believe me, it is the route you were given to take. Freedom. You were given freedom to choose this day. Why not choose a lovely life? Why not choose better than the best before? Because it's always better. You're offered everything. Son, all I have is yours. He even gave you himself. I am with you always. I will never leave you. And I understand this is reiteration and reiteration, but that's how it finally soaks in. Look, you've got years and years and years of the drama man all bottled up in your head. So to turn away from it instantly it really is impossible, because we can't think that straight that long enough to have a revelation under natural man-mind reasoning. You got to go outside the box. You have to think ahead of all that's going on, because that's how you get change. As long as you're thinking about what already is, then you're just adding to the change of always being the same. But as you change your mind, you do change your world, even if the rest of the world doesn't seem to move at all. Your world will change. That's it, isn't it?
You gave them a whole bunch. I mean, that's some good stuff. And I hope that they'll go back and just kind of listen to those last few minutes of what it is that you said, because you've given them the tool for desired change. I was in the store the other day, and I was checking out, so I thank the young lady for helping me. So the next person that came behind me, she said, well, how are you doing? And he said, I'm breathing. And I thought to myself, is that all that you're seeking from life, is to be breathing? And what I mean by that is the person on a ventilator, the person that's in a coma state, he or she's breathing. So is that the only thing that we expect from ourselves, because that's what you're going to get. If the only thing you want to do is survive, then the only thing you're going to get more of is surviving. But when you change that thinking from surviving to thriving, then your life is on its way for transformation. Would you agree?
That's it. Again, as you think you are. I mean, I know that's super simple to say it that way. I didn't say it was easy, though. I never said any of this is easy, because I know how I struggled with it. But you understand, we're constantly told every day about fighting against this and fighting against that. That's not the way it is. You relax, let go, let God. Believe me, there's nothing going on God can't handle. But he's not going to intercede in anybody's life until he's actually asked to do so. So you have to ask. You receive not because you ask not. And if you're asking and you're not receiving, then you're asking wrong, because God's not refusing anybody. He told you that when you pray, believe that you have received that for which you're asking. And then that's it. I mean, why can't you follow that simple rule and try it time and time and time again? I'll tell you, that one you'll get results from, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I like that you made the statement. You said, listen, I didn't say it was easy, but what I'm going to incorporate is another word. It may not be easy, but when change starts to take place, what you're going to discover is that it's effortless. It's not a struggle. You would say, you either stroll in or you don't get in. Would you agree?
Yeah, actually it is that, really, because what are you told? Be still and know that I'm God. You couldn't be still and not be relaxed, right?
Absolutely.
So right there, if you'll just relax, you'll learn to be still. And stillness means that you're not thinking about things outside of you. Everything outside will be there when you get back. But for the moment, put it outside the door, go in the closet, close the door, and speak to your Father which is in heaven. And if you can do that, what else would you need? You can speak directly to God. What else would you need? He knows what you have need of even before you ask. I mean, he's with you. I'm with you always. I will never leave you. So I'm sure he knows what you're thinking, but he's not judging you for what you're thinking. He's allowing you to think whatsoever. And that's what you're experiencing is whatsoever. As within, so without. It's a psychological drama. As within, so without. So there's nothing on the without except secondhand. It was only new as idea. And you can always produce a new idea, even if it's not profitable or fails, but you can still produce a different idea because you're thinking feelingly all the time. But about what? That's all you have to do is just really question yourself. What am I thinking about? Is it profitable? Is it lovely and of good report? I'm told that the drama man is good and very good. Well, if I'm not experiencing that, why wouldn't I check up to see what I'm doing wrong? And that's it. Man's ways are not God's ways. He told you to ask, believing. But if you're asking, not believing, then you think your prayers aren't answered. But they are answered because you're getting what you don't want. And all you have to do is worry, and you get more worrying. Right?
Absolutely. I love that you put out the ask and go into the silence and ask your Father. A lot of us complicate that. Father is all around you, in you, through you. Your goal in acknowledging Father is becoming more aware. Whatever you call that infinite spirit source, life force. But when you begin to acknowledge it, because see, in you, he lives, he moves, he has his existence. And apart from him, you don't exist. So if you just, no matter what your belief system is, if you just acknowledge that there's a source, male, female, whatever you call the source, I'm not caught up in the he or the she or the it. I'm wanting you to understand that there's a source that is a part of you and that you're a part of it, that When you get into the space of thank you, Father, you're on your way to manifesting whatever it is that you desire, because you begin to understand that you and this infinite source that we call God is one. Would you agree?
That's it. If they would really feel after feeling self to be, it'll be. Because that's what you're told to do. Feel after him and you'll find him. Him, you, doing, being, having your heart's desire, if that's what you're focused on. Otherwise, whatever you're focused on, that's what you'll be doing. I mean, you have a choice. That's what choice is. And the fact that it is a choice, that in itself is wonderful, that you have a choice, that you can say, I will do this, I will not do that. It's easy. Well, it isn't easy, but it's simple. It is simple, isn't it?
It is simple. It is simple. And like I said earlier, if you're doing it right, it becomes effortless. It's you becoming aware.
Yeah.
It's you thinking. You know, some people think that saying the term aware is too metaphysical. It's you thinking purposefully on what it is that you want to manifest in your world. Would you agree?
That's it. What else would you want to think about? See, we get so caught up in the world that to break away from it, even for moments at a time, is really does seem to take effort. But look, there is only God. All you have to do is just dread a little. That's you using the power to be dreading. You have to have power to even dread things. So you're on all the time. You understand? You're on all the time. As a matter of fact, you're praying ceaselessly. In other words, everything out of your mouth or to yourself or even a suggestion is you talking to you to do what. And if you know what ahead of time, because you're always thinking ahead of your evidence, then you can change it if it's undesirable. But if you don't, then it just goes through. You're always thinking ahead of your evidence. What? That's what you want to know, isn't it?
Absolutely. Some of you say that you don't have any opportunity where you're at, that there's no opportunity for wealth. So what, in thinking about getting wealthy, how can that happen because you don't have any opportunity? The young lady that services my websites and so forth, she's in a totally different part of the world. She's in Pakistan. But she came up with a concept that she wanted to learn as much as she could about computers and help other people. And so I found her on a particular site, and she began doing work. Her work was so outstanding that we continued to communicate. And so anytime I come up with a new project, I'll reach out to her. We're speaking two different languages. We're on two different sides of the world. But she began to believe that she could prosper. Not only does she want to prosper, she wants to help other women in her community prosper by doing what it is that she does. So my whole point to you, Mr. Lindell says, you come up with a new ideal. You write the goal down. You begin to live that thing out. Change is just the byproduct of time, because it will happen. You know, there's so many people time after time that when they set these principles, these laws in motion, they reap the benefit. Would you agree?
Absolutely. You'll be overwhelmed with the joy of having a say that is an actual say. The only difference was before you didn't believe you had a valid say, and now we're telling you that you do. So why wouldn't you test it? I mean, that's the whole thing, isn't it, is testing it? Because he said, test me now herewith, and see if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. You don't even have room to receive it all. That's from God himself to you, personally, first person. You can do this. He told you to do it, so you can do it, but you can refuse. And that's what you've been doing. You have been refusing the good that you want because of thinking that it doesn't work. But it does. But you have to work it. That's the whole point of it, is that you, first person, are to seek and you shall find. But what are you seeking? You're seeking a better life, you'll have it. If you're seeking worrying, well, it's impossible to please God if you're not thinking correctly. Because He has to give you exactly what you're thinking. And that can be pretty awesome at times, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I like that you said He has, by decree, have to give you your acts, whatever the thing is that you're asking. So if you're asking by way of worry, you're saying, oh, this is never going to work out, blah, blah, blah. Universe, God, Source says, be it unto you according to your faith.
Yeah.
What are you asking for? It may be needful that you change. What are you asking for? If you're coming from a place of where you understand and know that it's going to work out, and begin just believing that change is possible. Just start there.
It has worked out.
Absolutely.
I am that. I am doing that right now. Even if it's very poorly. And most everything you do first time is done poorly. But if you do it enough times, you get pretty good at it. And that's what you get when you reiterate these ideas, listen to the tapes, read the books. It's you investing in yourself. And believe me, it will pay the biggest dividends you can get in this whole drama, man. Because it's self in self and risen. That's what you're looking for. Rising up in yourself. Because that's what it is. Self in self and risen. But you have to think in that direction, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I want to add this, you were talking about, you got to start, everybody started off at a place of learning. Every expert started off as an amateur. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's right. He wasn't born Einstein.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, Einstein was a C student before he became who we know today as Einstein.
Right. I heard the story about it. He didn't even know how to tie his shoes.
And yet, he transformed the world.
You see, that's what gave me hope.
Still giving me hope.
Me? I'm to do what? But, you see, the thing of it is that every word must be accounted for. Do you really understand the depth of... You know how many times you can hear that and it just goes right over? Because you have to think about these things seriously. I mean, there is a time when you're set in a silence and you commune with yourself and you're really thinking about what it is that you know that you should be thinking from. Don't think about it, think from it. You are it. Just be it. That's what you're told from Scripture. Be it. Oh, and someone said, but I'm not prepared. I'm not trained. Training is doing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I wanted to add to that, everybody, when starting out, no matter who you are, we all, and I'm stressing all, start off feeling inadequate. But when we move from not looking at our ability, but looking at our availability, when you just start doing what it is that has been placed in your spirit to do, you're not going to do it perfectly. But as you keep on doing it, you'll get better. And pretty soon, what you'll find is that it will become a way of life. Would you agree?
That's it. In fact, that's the whole idea, that it become your way of life. In other words, you're supposed to be dreaming the dream, not the nightmare. But for many in the world, it has become a nightmare. This is hell on earth for many people. I mean, when you're starving and dying of thirst, water, I mean, come on. That's what you're thinking about, isn't it? And when you're thinking about that, you're going down with it. See, when the people fail to dream, they start to die. That's the story. And starts to die. So in other words, there's always time to change it because you're thinking ahead of your evidence. And so the evidence you were facing, you can wipe it out by thinking different now. Isn't that the case?
Absolutely. And I want to say to the listener, no matter where you're at in the world, look at where you're at and ask yourself, what change can I make where I'm at? Ask yourself the question, and all of a sudden answers will start flooding into you. And that's how my journey began, because I didn't believe that I was even a person placed on earth to make a change. But when I began asking the question, what good, what change right here where I'm at, the opportunities begin to present themselves.
The opportunities are there.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. I remember the guy who works for the department of if you have an invention or something and they assign you a number or something.
Einstein actually worked there himself, the patent office.
Yeah, the patent office, that's right. And he had worked there for like 40 years, and he quit. He said, well, you know, what more could they make? I mean, what else could be invented? Everything's been made now. And that was like 50 years ago. I think there's been quite a few changes, don't you?
Absolutely. And changes are coming more rapidly now. So if he had still been living, his mind would be blown. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mine is. I tell you, I can't believe how fast 24 hours can pass. They say it gets quicker. Well, it does. But that's okay. It's all okay. It's really all okay. I know you're looking at the world right now, and it's in a terrible mess. But the thing of it is that it has to get to that point where it's total disaster before it can start getting better. I mean, it's like a drunk in the gutter. He has to get there before he can start moving back up. And why? Because, see, we have these mindsets that all operate automatically. And the guy's really not even at fault for it because it's on automatic, and he doesn't know that. That the signal is being sent. It comes automatically. So he's going to take that trip to the end as long as he stays in that state of mind. But in my Father's house are many mansions, many states of mind. You can change your mind and change your world. Why not give it a shot to try so? But don't try to do it. That's what I always had. I always had try and try. But trying doesn't work. It's do a thing. That's what you're told to do it. That's the only way you find out first person, and that's what you want, is to know first person. And if you really do want to know first person, you can do so because God has given you to do so. Choose this day. That's all there is to it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And for those who are choosing, go out to Metaphysical Art Theater, purchase Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set. And what that will do is allow you to meditate upon these truths that we talk about each week. For those who are outside the country, you can get the digital download. For those who are in the country, you can get the physical CDs as well as the digital downloads. Again, that's at Metaphysical Art Theater. So as we're winding down, none are worthy. What would you say to the listener?
Yes, as is in the mind of imagination, in the theater of mind. That's your world of experiencing. If you want to change it, change your mind, change your world. That's what you're told by God to do so. Why wouldn't you do so? Isn't that the question?
Absolutely, and we said time after time, if he said it to one, he says it to all, because we know that none are worthy, and God is no respecter of person. Would you agree?
Fantastic. That's it. That's a good one to leave it on.
All right, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
We'll talk later.
We'll talk later.
All right, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.